So there's something that I feel that needs to be addressed. Dating is harder than it's ever been, but more importantly, what I've started to see and notice, and there seems to be this movement of men seemingly exiting the dating market. And this has been happening maybe over the past 3 to 4 years, but now it's really happening almost, I don't want to say in droves, but it's happening much more common. And we realize it's not just a small minority of men that are the outliers. It's now more common in finding more guys who are just not dating, not trying to date, and not looking to date. And I think it's really important that we address maybe why it's happening, what things have contributed on men's part, what things have contributed on women's part, what things have contributed on a cultural and environmental factor, and then how we can move forward from that. So the first thing, which is the environmental aspect, that a lot of guys are just not looking to pursue relationships, is that they feel that they can't afford one. Most guys know that having a girlfriend, having a partner who is a woman, that's an extra cost. That is a cost. You can say it's an expense. You can say it's an investment if that's somebody you do see a future with. But nevertheless, it is to some men a level of financial burden in order to facilitate the relationship that they both want to have, but also that she feels looked after, that she feels wanted, that she feels desired. Because, like for example, it happens a lot where a guy will maybe, put a lot of effort in the beginning, and then maybe it starts trailing off in terms of actually going out on dates, and everything just seems to be, hey, why don't you come around to mine? Or, we'll just chill. But that could literally be because he can't afford it. He can't afford to take you on 1-2 dates a week. Can't afford to take on maybe 1 or 2 dates a month. Maybe he's not in a position where he can do that. And we hear a lot of people say that, okay, well, if you're not in a financial position to date, then you shouldn't be dating. If you're not in a financial position to have a relationship, especially as a man in the relationship, then don't, date women and give them hope if you're not in a position to be that person for them. And so guys are like, okay, well, until I'm in that position, I'm not going to entertain dating somebody because he can't be that guy. Now, the unfortunate reality is the cost of living right now is the highest it's ever been. 40 years ago, the average salary could support a family of 4. Now, the average salary can barely get you a house share of 4, like just about. And so with that consideration, guys are just seeing, okay, well, if I'm not in a financial position to bring a woman into my life, to be the man in the relationship, then it's in his own interest to wait until he does do that. But that means that he may not be until his mid-30s until he feels he's in a position where he can invite a woman into his life. Now, there is, a rhetoric, or there is some women who say, okay, but I don't care about that financial stuff as long as he's growing, right? As long as he's ambitious and he's growing in the direction of maintaining that level of financial stability and that financial capability. And I agree, that is great, but a lot of guys, what they see online is that they have to be already made. Interestingly enough, it's funny, the more you spend online, the more you realize how much of it doesn't actually resonate with reality. But all of us are online, and if a guy's not dating, he's going to be spending most of his time online in regards to, maybe with women or trying to get access to women, trying to understand women. And what a lot of guys see is that unless you are an already made man, so unless you are an attractive guy who is in great shape, who has his shit together, who is financially stable, you can't get the woman that you want. You can't even get the opportunity with the woman that you want. And so a lot of guys are just saying, okay, well, I'm going to wait until I get to that position. And so they're kind of holding off dating. And dating in itself, not just having a relationship, but dating in itself costs money. Like if you're a guy and you're going on 3 or 4 first dates in a month, right? That's not even counting the second dates, just first dates. If every day averages 50 to 60 pounds, that's 240 pounds a month. So yeah, many guys just feel that they can't afford to be dating right now, so they're not. Now, the next reason, which I guess this is a guy thing, a guy's opinion thing, is a lot of men feel that there aren't that many wives to go around. Now, of course, there's a fair rhetoric. Maybe some women will say, maybe some of you yourself will say, well, there aren't that many husbands around. And that could be a fair justification. But a lot of guys feel that there aren't that many wives around. For a lot of men, what they consider a wife isn't what is not only the main narrative today, but what women are being encouraged to be. What we see a lot of women encouraged to be is to be incredibly sexually, free and promiscuous just as much as men, which is fair enough. selling their sexuality online. We have OnlyFans, more women getting into the adult industry, using guys for money or choosing guys who have money. And for a lot of guys, what they see as wife material is a woman who's very discerning with who she's sexual with, is a woman who protects her sexuality and reserves that for herself and for the man that she chooses. And a woman who is, I guess, ride or die, a woman who is willing to be with him when he doesn't have everything, but maybe he's growing in himself. There's that phrase that says, a man is tested when he has everything, and a woman is tested when he has nothing. And the reason a man is tested when he has everything is because when a man grows a lot of value in himself, that's when he gets a plethora of options, and that's when he's tested in terms of his loyalty to the woman and his commitment to the woman. Does he, leave her and, get with someone maybe younger and attractive, or does he stay with her because she's been with him? And the reason a woman is tested when he has nothing is because as men, we understand that there's a level of tangible value that women want us to bring. And so if a man isn't in a position where he's bringing that tangible value, can she and does she still choose him? And at the moment, the level of narrative and encouragement that men see is not that kind of woman. And if we're being completely honest, marriage is not a great deal for men today. And so they really feel they have to be getting a great wife in order to take that plunge. And unless he feels he's doing that, they're not going to take that plunge because they see it more as a liability rather than a value in terms of the long-term aspect of marriage itself. Now, something else that plays a heavy part before we even get into the relationship, before we get into the marriage, before we even get into paying for dates and paying for a woman or paying for you both, paying for experiences, is that most guys just don't get a chance with women. Hey, you know me, I always want to give great value. And so as a thank you for watching this episode, I want to give you the secret sauce that makes a man want to desperately commit to a woman. It's not great sex and it's not how hot you are. It's the value you bring outside of the bedroom, which is why I'm giving you my guide, the 5 feminine ways to add value to a man's life that makes you irreplaceable to him. Absolutely free. Just click the link below and it's yours. Now back to the video. Most guys do not get the opportunity to go on dates with the women that they would like to. I've talked about this on my channel, on my podcast before. If you don't watch that, definitely, tune into that. But the Pito Principle, the 80-20 rule is a thing. If you don't know what that is, the Pito Principle is where 20% of mass is responsible for 80% of the production. So for example, 20% of cities in the world hold 80% of the world's population. 20% of people in a company are responsible for getting 80% of the company's revenue. 20% of authors are responsible for 80% of books sold. 20% of actors get 80% of the jobs. That's why we see the same actors in, all different films or TV shows, right? And so when you have a free market, that tends to be what just naturally happens as a consequence of nature, the universe, whatever it is that you believe. And so because dating has become a free market, because we have so much access now, especially women have a level of abundance they never had before in terms of accessibility, they are choosing the top guys, right? They're choosing the most attractive and desirable guys that they can. And the truth is, the most desirable guys, the qualities that he has, 90% of men don't have. So the average man is no longer good enough in comparison to that guy for the average woman when she's comparing him to a Stormzy, to a Drake, to LeBron James, to, insert super high successful guy here. And then obviously what's happening is that the only reason most women actually have access to those kinds of men is because they're offering easy sexual access for him. They're offering easy sex. And sex doesn't equal relationship. A lot of women mistake, this is the kind of guy that I can get to commit to me, when in actuality, maybe she may not be what he's actually looking for, but he will indulge because she's providing easy sex for him. And the actual guy who would treat her right, who would give her the level of investment, maybe isn't as flashy, maybe isn't as tall, maybe isn't as ripped as that guy. He just doesn't get a chance. And this is the experience most men go through. I mean, dating at statistics, men swipe on average, I think 45 to 50% of the time. So that's 1 in 2 people. Women on average swipe about 5 to 10% of the time. That's 1 in 20. But what ends up happening is you get a very small percentage of guys who gets the majority of the matches. So most guys just don't really get a chance. And next thing, and this is to do with people's choices in how they date, who they choose to date, the behaviors that they choose to indulge in, is that many people are dating with trauma. Many people are dating from a place of brokenness because maybe they've been hurt before, they've had a series of bad experiences. And the male perspective is that if you have a good man and he meets a woman who maybe has had a string of bad experiences with men, a string of experiences where it's not gone the way she's wanted to, and maybe she's felt used, she's felt taken advantage of. Now, yeah, of course, you know, those men are bad for doing that, but ultimately she did choose them. And so a lot of guys feel that they have to try and make up for the damage that the previous guy did. Now, unless that woman is truly amazing in his eyes, he might provide the space to do that. But for most guys, they'll go, why should I have to pay for the mistakes of another man or for the mistakes of previous men? But for a lot of guys, it's like, why should I have to pay for the mistakes of another man for the sake of previous men in general? And a lot of guys, if they don't know you well enough that they've already fallen for you, they're just going to choose not to do that. So without everything sounding doom and gloom, what can we do to change this? How can we move forward that's going to change the outcome and even our practices today? Well, in the words of Michael Jackson, start with the person in the mirror. We have to start becoming the change that we want to see in the world, because a society and a culture is just made up of individual behaviors, a combination of individual behaviors. If we all start behaving in the way that we want to see the world change, we create a culture in which that becomes the norm. So for example, if as a woman it's important for you to have a level of commitment before you are physical with a man, if most women started doing this, most men would commit much sooner and they would stop wasting time with women who they're obviously not going to get sex from. It takes a husband to attract a wife, and it takes a wife to attract a husband. And many people like to say, oh, well, you know, I'll be the wife or I'll be the husband when I get married. You know, when I get into the marriage, I'll be that person. And that doesn't make any sense. And that doesn't work. And let me give you this example to show you what I mean. It's like when people see other people who are earning hundreds of thousands of pounds, maybe that person who works in corporate, and, you know, they're like, oh, well, you know, they know that he works 70 hours a week. And they go, oh, well, you know, if I was earning $500,000 a year, I would work 70-hour weeks. You know, if that was my salary, then I would be willing to do that. And it's like, you have it backwards. You have to work 70 hours a week to get to the point that you're earning that kind of income. You don't get the income and then you do the work. You have to do the work and then you get the result. And when it comes to being a wife, it's exactly the same thing. You have to do the work now and become a wife now before you get the official result of being a wife to a man, especially if you want to be a wife to a good man. Now, with all of that being said, even though things may seem a bit bleak, there are still plenty of people out there, good people out there, who are getting into relationships, who are getting married, and who are finding fulfilling love. So those people are out there. Your person is out there. But we have to ask ourselves, have we become the version of ourselves that attracts this kind of relationship? Have we grown in ourselves to attract that kind of energy, that kind of investment, that kind of commitment that we see ourselves having? So to help you start this, I want you to ask yourself, what does the version of you in the idealized relationship you have in your head, that you have in your future, that you have in your vision, what does that version of you do that this version of you currently is yet to start doing? That's a really great place to start.
Well, thanks for tuning in. And if you're ready to take your love life to the next level, then be sure to join the Kit Angels community in the link below. Let's stay connected. See you next time.